Damn it. Hi. So I'm here. I want to talk a little bit about what is a corporatocracy. Um, it seems that I was listening to somebody, I think it was maybe Richard Wolf, who was talking about the kind of government that we are in right now. It's called a corporatocracy. And I was trying to read, excuse me, read a little bit to let you know what a corporatocracy is. Um, so, a corporatocracy, they say, is not an official system like democracy or monarchy. It's a de facto power structure where corporations wield massive influence over government decisions, over public policy, over media narratives, over international relations and everyday life. A corporatocracy, they say, emerges when big businesses are so enmeshed with politics and lawmaking that they essentially run the show behind the scenes. Uh, I wonder how long we've been in this corporatocracy. Excuse me. Oh, I apologize. It's so apparent now because Trump got elected, and then woo, here's Elon Musk doing so much. But we can see that now. But I just wonder, how long has this been going on where we thought we were in a democracy, but corporations were so enmeshed with politics and lawmaking that they essentially ran the show behind the scenes. Key traits of a corporatocracy are politicians are funded by corporate interests. We know that's been going on for a long time. Regulatory agencies are often run by former corporate executives. This is called regulatory capture. Regulatory agencies are often run by former corporate executives. Okay, I get that. So then the people in this case, excuse me, I know they said that they got rid of a lot of the inspectors general, and those are usually heads of regulatory agencies. So I guess the plan is to replace them with former business executives, corporate executives. Profits are prioritized over people or the planet. Definitely got that going on. They fired all of those people. I mean, just the way things are going right now, there's clearly no consideration for the well-being of the people. It's all about the money, baby. Oh, media outlets are owned by a handful of powerful corporations. Workers and consumers have little real power. And they are definitely working on that. You know, they one of the things that they are working to do is pass the SAVE Act, and that further reduces the number of people who can vote. Excuse me. Ooh. Oh, these are voter suppression tactics. With the SAVE Act, if your birth certificate doesn't match the name on your ID, then you can't register to vote. And most people who are married, when women get married, they typically change their last name. So their name is not the name that's on their birth certificate. So that means the husband can vote, but the wife can't vote. Makes you think twice about getting married, doesn't it? So another characteristic of a corporatocracy is that crisis as a tool. In other words, what they call disaster capitalism. They had a book like that, and I never got that book to read it. But really, I remember the premise of it being that what is a disaster? people get rich. And that's why they want to privatize everything. And they definitely are creating a whole bunch of disasters with those executive orders. So the crisis management piece likely refers to how crises are manipulated or manufactured in order to push through laws that would be unpopular otherwise. Mm, I know what that's like, yeah. So you can think about it. Some crises that we've had, like when they start talking about security concerns and how those things make you. I'm trying to remember. It was some. I think it was one example is when I think it was Saddam Hussein. Remember they were talking about the was it the weapons of mass destruction that they were saying they had in Iraq, and so Bush went off half cocked to war. But what it did is it made us willing to relinquish some of our civil rights in the name of security. hmm So that's a good example. Um, you can privatize public goods like schools, hospitals, and housing, and also roll back civil liberties, which is what I was just saying. This idea is thoroughly explored in Naomi Klein's book and documentary called The Shock Doctrine: The Rise of Disaster Capitalism. That book explains how disasters like wars, hurricanes, and financial meltdowns are exploited to benefit corporations. Real examples include the privatization of New Orleans schools post Hurricane Katrina, the Iraq War reconstruction contracts, the 2008 financial crash bailouts, and COVID era wealth transfer to billionaires. Wow. The logic? Keep people overwhelmed and afraid, and they'll accept extreme changes they'd usually resist. Three, consumerism and emotional control. Corporatocracy thrives off consumer capitalism, where people's identities are tied to what they buy. Oh, yeah, we got a lot of that going on. Constant advertising creates artificial needs. Yep. Yeah, it creates an urgency for, wow, emotional triggers like fear, insecurity, or desire drive consumption. Even resistance gets commodified, like revolution t-shirts at big box stores. This system encourages disconnection from community, nature, and self-awareness, so that people stay plugged into the buying loop. Ooh, that is deep, diabolical. Four, real world signs we may be in one. Here's one real world sign: billionaires influence elections often more than the voting public. Corporate lobbying writes legislation, literally. Healthcare, education, water, and housing are treated as profit centers instead of human rights. Yeah, I think I can see that happening. Surveillance and data collection are normalized through tech giants. Wow. News coverage favors corporate interests or filters out critical voices. Yeah, that's kind of some signs we might be in a corporatocracy. We see all of that going on. Mm, I think they just what do they just do? So healthcare, we already know, we keep hearing about them attacking, cutting, doing massive cuts with Medicaid, Medicare. I think they said they dismantled the Department of Education. And it was something about and some housing program they're ending. I think it's Section 8 housing and something with the water. They said that What was that with the water? Because I remember seeing a story about Mississippi and how the water, I saw sewage backed up in somebody's yard. But that sounds like an infrastructure something. Environmental racism. Let's see. Yeah. That we definitely saw the billionaires influence the election more than the voting public. Who was that came and did a Greg Palast, who said when he really looked at it, he could see how millions of votes had been thrown out with it was some law they were using um, because they started passing these laws where if you didn't, some little thing, any little thing they could do to kind of disqualify your vote. Anyway, they managed to do it to millions of votes. And then let's see, surveillance and data collection are normalized through check. Yeah, they were complaining about that because they were like, how did Elon Musk get? He got access to our data. People were quite, but I think he was at the Social Security office. It was like people were like, oh my god. But all of these are signs that we are in a corporatocracy, and news coverage favors corporate interests and filters out critical voices. Yeah, they say you're not seeing anything on the news about these things, I guess, that I just discussed. You're saying you have to go to YouTube for a lot of stuff. Anyway, so want to watch instead of read? Here are some videos or documentaries that explain this visually and powerfully. So for your reference, The Corporation, that was created in 2003, it breaks down how corporations act like psychopaths under current laws. Ooh. Another one is called The Shock Doctrine. It's a documentary based on Naomi Klein's book. Then there is Hypernormalization by Adam Curtis. It explores how corporations and governments manufacture reality. It's a little eerie. And then for Requiem for the American Dream by Noam Chomsky. It breaks down the concentration of wealth and power in the U.S. Okay, that's what I wanted to share today. Corporatocracy. I mean, it kind of sounds like creating crises for which you also create products and services that address or solve those crises for profit. I was talking to Chat GPT and I was like, am I right, Chat? This is what Chat GPT answered. He said, yes, exactly. That's the core idea of what Naomi Klein calls disaster capitalism. In a corporatocracy, a capitalist system driven by profit, crises, or capitalist system driven by profit, crises are often manufactured or exacerbated so that solutions, which are typically privatized products and services, can be sold as the answer. This creates a vicious cycle where one, crisis is created or amplified. Think of natural disasters, economic crashes, social unrest, or even health pandemics. Ooh, 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 not health pandemics like the one that kept us in the house for 2 years. Social unrest, like what was that thing we had? The January 6th, that thing. And now, oh, I get it. Social unrest, things we were seeing like that trans movement. It was in the laws that they passed. Yeah, I remember the laws that they passed where uh, a man could just say he's a woman. It could say he's a man on his birth certificate. He could even have the physical appearance of a man. But if he tells you he's a woman, then you have to let him into women's spaces. Mm. And so the way that they passed the law, it created social unrest because people who are trans for real, they don't walk around like that. Like if he's born in a male body, he's not walking around looking like a man and just saying I'm a woman. That's not what that is. He's gonna look like a woman. And even then they don't, really be trying to go in women's spaces like that. So to me, I feel like that was social unrest that was created by those laws. And there was some other stuff. Then with the whole teaching about that gender ideology, it created social unrest psychologically for young people. And the solution was, what was it? It was called gender affirming care, which made Big Pharma a lot of money. I think they were really experimenting on those people. You can't change a person's sex. But anyway, I'm just saying, I feel like that was a crisis that was created and amplified. Because remember, then they had Dylan Mulvaney, who everybody knows is an actor, and they had him as he got an award like for Vogue magazine or something for Woman of the Year. It just was you'd be like looking around at the world like, what is happening right now? But what it did is it created social unrest. Yeah. So two, the public is in need of relief. Yep, that's what I told Things. I said you make the women so uncomfortable that they wanted to stop, and that's because I was almost there. I was almost about to vote for the Republicans to get that the whole trans thing to stop because of how many different areas of life it was affecting. And I think one of my main concerns was how it was affecting children. I thought it was really unfair. The public is in need of relief. This opens up an opportunity for corporations to swoop in and provide solutions, but those solutions often come with a huge price tag. Corporations profit from the crisis, whether it's selling emergency products, rebuilding services, or privatizing public infrastructure. The crisis serves to create new markets. The example of Hurricane Katrina is a textbook case. After the disaster, many public services and resources were privatized. Large corporations came in to rebuild, but often at a cost to the public, both in terms of money and quality. The housing market crash of 2008 saw mortgage lenders exploiting people, while those who caused the crisis, like banks, got bailed out by the government, profiting from the very disaster they helped to create. And here's the cycle in action, as they say. One, create a crisis. It could be an environmental disaster. It could be economic collapse. That's what we're going through right now with all those tariffs. Or a health scare, which was the pandemic before. Number two, maximize fear and uncertainty to create demand for immediate solutions. Three, provide for-profit solutions, privatize resources, sell emergency products, etc. Four, profit massively from the crisis. Five, reinvest that profit into influencing policy to perpetuate the system and keep the cycle going. Wow. Wow. Okay, here we go. It says a real world example: Big Pharma and the opioid crisis. The pharmaceutical industry pushed opioid painkillers into the market for profit, knowing full well the addictive potential. When the opioid epidemic hit, It created a public health crisis, and for-profit treatment centers and drugs were marketed as the solution. This system benefits a small elite while leaving the general population in a constant cycle of needing more products or services to fix the problem caused by those very elites. Do you see this action around you? Leave it in the comments. Or do you see it in industries you've observed? That's it. If you've gotten this far, thank you for stopping by. Please leave us a thumbs up, a comment, and subscribe.